Alright, that's enough of that music. I don't want Disney all on me. It's LEGO Star Wars the video game next. I've already given my opinion on the franchise as a whole 3 episodes ago when I did Revenge of the Sith on PS2. To recap as quick as possible, don't talk to me about Star Wars, I fucking hate you, you drain my enjoyment of the franchise whenever I see your shitty YouTube videos in my recommendations, and Victory Celebration is better than Yub Nub. When I first saw this game in the shops in early 2005, I was 12 and becoming a ridiculous video game snob. You know, the I know everything even though my pool of played games is very small. Everything people like that I haven't played yet is bad, I'm more mature and better tasted than everyone else my age. That kind. If I could strangle my 12-year-old self until I got over myself years earlier than I actually did, I would. So when I first saw this game, I was dismissive. Oh, that's right desperate, why I want to play a Star Wars game but the only difference is that they're LEGO. And then we wound up with a copy of the game on the original Xbox, which I don't have anymore, and I actually gave it a try and was proven wrong. This didn't change my general attitude and I just pretended I always knew it was a good idea, because what 12-year-olds ever admit they're wrong. On starting a new game, I'm put in Dexter's Diner in control of my first 2 characters, Qui-Gon Jinn and Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi. In here I can run around a bit and use the Force to interact with objects to make studs appear. They're the game's currency and silver are worth 10, gold 100 and blue 1000. I can talk to Dexter at the counter to buy things, but right now there aren't many options available. They're just gameplay hints, which are worthless but cost almost nothing and are still required for 100%. The studs picked up around the diner easily cover all the hints. There's also just 2 characters available to buy, the PK droid for 350 studs and the Gonk droid for 250. Any unlocked characters can be found wandering the diner. These 2 characters don't do anything when played as apart from move around. There's 4 doors next to the counter, numbered 1 to 3 with a question mark at the end. I can only enter the door to episode 1 and in there are 6 more doors to each level of the film. I can only start with chapter 1, Negotiations. Every chapter starts with an opening crawl and it gets old since you have to wait a bit before you can skip them. As in the film, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon arrive on the Trade Federation battleship and TC-14 takes them to a room to wait. Then turrets come down and we get the moment the game won me over. As a kid, I was just expecting a straight adaptation of the films, but they were LEGO. With this, I finally realised what they were going for. I then gained control. Before doing anything else, I go around the room destroying things for studs. There's a bar at the top that fills in as I collect them. Apart from using the Force, Jedi can also double jump and downstab with their lightsabers. If I use the Force on the chairs, I make them dance to the cantina music. I can force each individual chair for more studs, plus the blue stud in the corner that has that bar 30% full before I've even left this room. I force open the door and leave to get attacked by battle droids. I have 4 hearts to my health and death makes me drop 2000 studs that I can then try to pick up like I'm Sonic trying to reclaim my lost rings. Once the droids are dead, I can start forcing the vents open for more studs. I go into a door on the right and use the Force to fix these lifts. They both have blue studs above them, one even a Jedi can't reach. I then mess with this generator for even more studs. On the left side of the corridor is a door I can't open yet, so I just keep heading forward, flipping all these switches to make a LEGO minikit piece appear. There's 10 of these in every level. I turn the corner, kill more droids and get more studs before I move forward and find my next new character, TC-14. Protocol droids can unlock doors that have terminals with a picture of one. They can't do anything else other than walk though, they can't even jump. I take it down to the bottom of this hallway to open the door there. After picking up the studs, I use the Force to start stacking these boxes and jump towards the minikit to find there's a force field in the way, so I can't get this one on this playthrough. What's annoying is that while I was in there, TC-14 went off on her own to the door I need to go through to continue. But I'm not done here yet, there's still the door she can open close to the starting room. So I punish her by cutting off all limbs but one leg. Then I just forget I had a door for her to open earlier and make her open this one. Get all the studs, which gets me to over 20,000, and unlock the next door. The boxes I destroy there completely fill out the bar. In this game it isn't given a name, but the sequel brands it True Jedi status. While the bar normally goes down when you lose studs on death, once you hit True Jedi, it will always stay full. I force open a big vent and take out more droids. Entering takes me to the second and last section of this chapter. I try to double jump across to the minikit right next to me and fail. After taking out all the droids, I move this tank and jump up to a door, but I need an astromech droid to open it. There are some boxes next to the tank I can stack and I spend a while trying to reach the platform with that minikit. I just barely land it using the downstab and get my second minikit. I then head to the area to the right where a pair of droidekas roll in and turn on the barrier keeping me from my escape. To defeat them I have to use the ground stab to deactivate their shield and then get hitting before it comes back on. Once they're dead, I can mess with this vehicle for more studs and use some of its parts to make a platform. To the left of the barrier is some more blocks. I have to stack them with one small one at the bottom, the large one second, and then the last 2 small ones so I can reach this moving platform. I use a switch on the ground to get it moving and ride it to the third minikit piece. Then right next to the barrier I can use the force to create some platforms to the other side where I can use the buttons to turn it off. Once the last of the enemies are dealt with, I can have TC-14 use a terminal to open this and abandon her by going inside and fleeing the battleship. Finishing this chapter also allows me to start on episodes 2 and 3. I unlock TC-14 for free use. Filling the bar in the chapter gives me one piece of the super kit. Right now there's no way to tell what it is. My collected studs get added to my total and the few minikit pieces I collected get put together. I choose to continue episode 1 rather than make this video all messy. Chapter 2, Invasion of Naboo. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan have landed on Naboo. They jump off one of the Trade Federation vehicles only to nearly get run over by Maul. As this starts, I'm just running forward, blowing up flowers with the force for studs. Droids will emerge from the sides of the screen, but they'll just keep going and won't actively fight me. We'll even get to see the odd Gungan run by. As I approach this fallen tree, I get attacked by a group of droids, but they go down easy. I force the tree back up and then smash it up piece by piece for this chapter's first minikit piece. More fighting and stud collecting later and I reach this crashed vehicle. I use the force to blow it up and double jump onto the second minikit piece above it. A little further and we get a cutscene where Jar Jar Binks, the cutest Lego person, fight me, is sniffing a flower. Qui-Gon saves him from being run over. As thanks, Jar Jar decides to lead them to his city. Back into the level, I can use the force at the bottom left of these stairs to make a platform. Jar Jar can't fight, but he can jump very high and use that platform to get me my third minikit piece, and then head up the stairs to the next screen. This one mainly has me going sideways, using the force to make bridges and using Jar Jar's jumps to reach high places and weigh them down for the Jedi to cross. This is the part that really gets across the need to use each character's special skills to make progress, since until now it's just been two guys with the same moveset and a slow door opener. Once I make it to the next part of this screen, I can have Jar Jar jump up onto a higher up platform for the fourth minikit piece. What follows is a bit of climbing to the exit into the third screen. Once again this screen starts with side scrolling. I force a chunk out of the wall to make a platform I can drop down to so I can pick up a fifth minikit piece. I keep moving forward and fight some droids by a crashed vehicle. After taking them out, I keep moving right to find more droids and a minikit piece stuck in a wall. The wreckage in front of it is easily destroyed and I have my sixth piece. I take Jar Jar up along a higher segment of the wall and lower a part to create another new exit, but first I return to that vehicle and use the force to blow it up. Behind it is a secret area. All that's in here is one blue stud and another I can't reach, so I go back and through the exit Jar Jar made. Last screen here and I'm back in the chaos of the invasion. There are 3 objects I can force lift here, and stacking them in the right order to make a Gungan statue gets me my 7th minikit piece. Right after I get enough studs to fill out the bar, around 36,400. The rest of it is just fighting my way to water so Jar Jar can dive in and show the Jedi the way to the Gungan city. They meet Boss Nass and Qui-Gon mind tricks him into lending them a submarine. Here's a fun fact about Boss Nass, he's a distant relative of mine. One of my granddads is Brian Blessed's cousin. I've never met him once and he has no reason to know I exist, but I thought I'd bring that up because it's the only vaguely interesting thing about me. Jar Jar is unlocked for free use now. I get my super kit piece and when you have a few minikit pieces at once, watching them slam into each other is quite satisfying. Chapter 3, Escape from Naboo. Theed, the capital of Naboo, is being invaded just as the Jedi and Jar Jar arrive. Queen Amidala is captured and her and Captain Panaka are being escorted from the palace. Because for them the Jedi are here. More specifically Qui-Gon, as he takes out all the droids while Obi-Wan struggles to switch his lightsaber on. Maybe this is why he was willing to take on a new apprentice. The Jedi and Jar Jar leave so that we can get used to our new characters. We now have control of Amidala and Panaka. Blaster characters like them have their blaster as their only means of attack. Good from a distance but not so good if enemies are up close and you're surrounded. The sequel gives them a much needed offense upgrade. Also, for such a minor character, I bet a lot of people may be surprised to learn that this isn't even Panaka's first playable appearance in the game. They also can't double jump. As is tradition, I run around destroying everything I can for studs. Once that's done, I can show off the blaster character's other ability, grappling onto certain points to lift themselves up. After shooting every single segment of this fence, I grapple up higher. I continue along the balcony destroying everything I can and grapple even higher. Destroying everything again and grapple again to take on a load of droids. I drop down a chain of studs that takes me back to the beginning. This gets me to 16,000 and around half of the bar filled. The strangest thing coming back to the first of these is the small amount of studs needed to fill that bar. Compare LEGO Star Wars 2, where by just the second level you already need 75,000 to fill it. I get back up, break what I haven't already and move on to the next screen. Just heading towards the screen here gets me my first minikit piece, then it's down the stairs into another screen. I shoot my way out through the windows, take out the droids and do some more destruction. Once I've got my studs I go left and drop all the way down to the bottom. To the right is my second minikit piece hidden away. I head back up and take the bridge opposite the windows, shooting a target to open the door to another screen. I shoot open the glass dome and drop through the hole to the floor below where I reunite with the Jedi. I get stud collecting as usual, moving to the right of the screen. While doing this I reach the gate and shoot the canisters and the lifts on either side of it to get them moving. I'll deal with that in a bit. To the right of the gate I can go up these stairs and grapple up. I hit the 32,000 studs needed to fill the bar and grapple once more for the third minikit piece. I return to the gate and use the lift to shoot all 4 targets to open it and move on to the next screen. This is a big open room with a lot of enemies and things to destroy. Across from the entrance I press a switch on top of this dome to open one of 3 smaller domes to the left of the entrance. This one just gets me some studs. I press a switch on the second big dome to open another smaller dome at the far end of this screen. The last switch opens another at the end. These get me some studs and my 4th minikit piece. I then drop down the hole I got the minikit. We land on a pair of battle droids and Amidala leads the others to her personal ship. They flee the planet and end this chapter. I unlock Queen Amidala and Captain Panaka and get my 3rd super kit piece. 4 bits of the minikit barely looks like it's made anything here. Chapter 4, Mos Espa Pod Race. They land on Tatooine because the engine is fucked and explodes. So Qui-Gon, Jar Jar, Padme and R2-D2 set off to find a new one. They try Watto's shop but find it costs a whole 500 cents. $5 is too much for Qui-Gon's tight ass, so they leave. But Anakin's there and offers to win them the money in the pod race. This level is infamous for its difficulty. I have to do 3 laps around the track, but the track is also split into 3 segments each. Studs are gained by crashing into these posts on the ground and minikits are in canisters just laying on the track. I miss one minikit when going up a ramp, but in the cave next to it I get my first just before moving onto the segment of the track with the Tusken Raiders shooting at the racers. I get the second minikit piece a few seconds in. This part of the track is more simple, mainly dodging shots and trying to stay on the long chain of speed boosters. Once I'm past them, I turn the corner and get a 3rd minikit piece. I then get a 4th right after before I slam into a wall and have to restart this section. I lose 2,000 studs, but I get to keep my minikits. Then the raiders shoot away 3 hearts of my life and knock me into a rock to finish me. Next time I make it further, grabbing a 5th minikit on the way. Every section is timed, but the timer only appears when 10 seconds are remaining, but I make it to the 3rd section in time. Not much to say here, I grab the 6th and 7th minikits just in time to finish my first lap. After a few seconds back in the 1st section, we get to see Sebulba take out this red Greedo guy, the explosion slightly changing the layout of the track. I get my 8th minikit, but the rock falls lower and I crash into it. Annoying thing is that you can't skip the Sebulba scene, it always makes you watch the entire thing. I end up having to watch it a 3rd time because it happens again. I get through next time, but I'm so happy I don't think about what's coming next and fall into a hole. I do it right next time and the rest of this section goes by without incident. I even get my 9th minikit, the one I missed first time around. Section 2 now has boulders falling down the track and I get killed by a raider. I then get shot into a boulder next time. This is ruining my stud total. This time I make it to the end with 1 second left. 3rd section I get through on my first try. Final lap now and I have to take a new path to the right thanks to that rock collapsing. At the end is my final minikit piece, getting all 10 in my first level. However, I missed too many speed boosts and run out of time near the end. Next time I hit every speed boost and just barely make it. 2nd section is just covered in boulders and it's very easy to crash. Next time I just ignore all the boosts near the boulders and once I pass them, the rest of this section goes by as normal. Shame I run out of time at the end though. Then a raider shoots me into another boulder. I am not getting the super kit first try on this level. Another crash has me down to 5,000 studs. Then a raider shooting me into another boulder gets me down to 3,000, and I run out of time again. And another raider shooting me into a boulder has me below 1,000. Then they knock that last 200 out of me. Then I pretty much cross the line to the next area, but the game still has the balls to claim I ran out of time. There's a reason the complete saga redid this level to be much less frustrating. Next time I finally reach the final section. Just Anakin and Sebulba left now. The timer starts counting down not long in, but it doesn't matter. The bombs dotting the track mean nothing and I finish the section on my first try and win the race. Anakin gets out of the pod to reveal that he had the money in his pocket the whole time, so I didn't need to suffer this shit, arsehole. The entire subplot of freeing Anakin is skipped and Shmi never appears, so when they're fitting the new engine in, it just looks like they've kidnapped Anakin. The ship takes off and I have the horrible realisation that I'm going to have to play the level again at some point for the super kit piece. At least I got all the minikit pieces, building up Sebulba's pod racer. Completing a minikit also rewards you an additional 50,000 studs. Chapter 5, Retake Theed Palace. All of Coruscant is skipped and the gang just returned to Naboo. Padme manages to get help from my cousin Boss Nass and the Gungans, and the whole decoy subplot on revealing herself to actually be Queen Amidala never happens. The Gungans take on the battle droids while the others infiltrate the palace. For the first time we have the maximum 6 character group, our Jedi, Padme, Panaka and newcomers Anakin and R2-D2, more on them in a bit. I do my usual force and destruction run on this little starting area for all the studs before I take on the droids in the next room. Not just battle droids, but droidicas make their return. There's also a lot of stuff to destroy and studs to collect around here. I managed to build a ramp for the non-Jedi to get up. I take Panaka up to the balcony and finally take out all these droids shooting at me from above. On the far right side of the balcony is my first minikit piece. With that done I can finally take control of R2. Astromech droids not only have their own doors they can open, but they can also hover for a short time and tase any droid to stun them for a few seconds. Very useful with droidicas. I have R2 open the door to the next screen. I use the Force to create a grapple point over this gap and to open a vent. This is where Anakin comes in. He can't fight, but small characters like Anakin can fit into vents, this one taking him to the other side of the gap. I then make a platform for the Jedi and R2, so now everyone can cross. I go down the next hallway, and after taking out the droids, I destroy this statue in the back. It reveals a switch that reveals the second minikit of this chapter. In the middle is this ring of 6 switches. I stand on one and the others stand on the rest to open the door on the right. At the end of that hallway and in the next room, after collecting the studs, I go left. There's this jump I need Jar Jar for in free play, but I spend a while almost getting it as Obi-Wan before I give up and go back the way I came to open this door with R2. On this next screen I go up the stairs, take out a load of droids and reach this next big room. First thing as usual is to run around, destroy everything I can and clear it out of enemies and studs. On the eastern side of the room I build a staircase to a higher section, but first use this grapple point next to it to grab my third minikit piece for this chapter. I then take those stairs leading to a bridge that Padme and Panaka can't cross. I have to stand a little south of the bridge and use the Force to fix it. I cross the bridge and reach the gate at the other side. The game stopped to show me the button needed to open it. First I have to blow up these flowers to reveal a button opening a smaller gate. Behind it is a vent for Anakin to crawl into. He's blocked by a crate, so I destroy it with the Force. I take Anakin to another vent that brings me to the button, opening the gate to the next screen. My usual destruction spree starts again. I make a vent for Anakin to continue alone and uncover a grapple point for Padme and Panaka. In the southeastern corner I can jump down to my 4th minikit piece. For the Jedi I have to make them stand on these boxes and lift the other up, then lift up this little bridge to jump across. I have everyone stand on these buttons to open another gate to the next section. Some levels in LEGO games can be too long, and this is one of them. I've been in here for half an hour and I'm not even on the last screen yet. Once again I do the usual destroying of everything. There's a bit of Force shenanigans to be had, but they just get me studs, so it isn't really worth going into detail. Like the whole setting up some tables with plates so I can destroy them for loads of studs. Once I'm done I go through this door and take out the droideka inside. There are 3 buttons hidden underneath the statue. The one on the left opens a door with some droidekas behind it, the one on the right has some battle droids and a load of studs. The one in the back leads to the final screen. Many of Naboo's soldiers are being held hostage by droids, so I have one more thing to drag this level out even more. I go to the left and up a grapple point and take out a droid and free the first hostage. Left of that I'm stacking boxes to reach another droid and free the second hostage. I start heading right where I build some stairs and get the 40,000 studs I needed to fill the bar. I move past these Naboo starfighters, take out some more droids. Moving past them I take out the 2 holding 2 more soldiers hostage. Then between 2 of the starfighters is a pair of boxes to lift me up to save the final 2 hostages. This raises a terminal for R2 to use. It opens a huge door and ends the level. More droidekas show up, Anakin and R2 hide in a starfighter and fly off into a level we won't see until the complete saga, taking the droidekas with him. I'm so glad this one is finally over, my least favourite level in the game. I unlock Padme, Battle, R2-D2 and Anakin Skywalker, Boy. I get my super kit piece and my 4 minikits are put together. It's pretty obvious what this one is. End of episode 1 with chapter 6, Darth Maul. With Anakin and R2's exit, the others keep going only for Darth Maul to show up. Padme and Panaka leave while Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon take him on. After a bit of fighting, Maul jumps backwards over a gap and removes the bridge. After my stud collecting I start taking out the droids he has backing him up by reflecting their blaster shots back at them. Once they're gone, Maul tries throwing an explosive barrel at me and I force it back to take one of his 3 hearts. I just have to repeat this twice more to make him flee out the back door. I rebuild the bridge and cross it. On the right is a starfighter with my first minikit piece above it. After that is some more stud collecting before I follow Maul to the next screen. Room so dark I didn't even realise there was a giant pit in the middle of it. I follow Maul who jumps along this series of platforms. I first go along the bottom for the studs. I then head back to the beginning and jump across the second level of platforms. But before I leave the room, I notice I missed a minikit piece on the far right at the bottom, so I go back and get it. That's 2. I then exit the screen for real this time. Now this is a room I remember from the film. There's a cruel tease there's 2 minikits on the other side of the entrance that I need an astromech for. Head over to Maul in the middle, but he just fucks off, takes a bridge and has more droids fight me instead. But for now I ignore them and start jumping into these beams of light that lift me higher up so I can get the studs. The droids are infinitely spawning. To get rid of them I have to destroy the droid calling in more of them on the far ends of these bridges. With all battle droids destroyed, 2 platforms rise up with droidekas. When destroyed they leave behind a pair of buttons that bring the bridge back, allowing me to follow Maul. This takes me to that force field hallway I never got. Just need to have both switches pulled at once to get rid of one. There's also so many objects I can force here for studs that I managed to fill the bar. I finally catch up to Maul for the final phase with his 10 units of health. I take out his first 6 units of health by just ground stabbing when he'd get near me. When reduced to 4, he jumps on over to this platform and hides on top throwing things at me. I force it back and he flees to another. Sadly I can't jump high enough to get on the platform he left to grab that minikit. I repeat with 2 more platforms to make him drop and start fighting me again. He'll force lift the character I'm playing as, so I have to switch and hit him. Do that 4 times and he's defeated. Maul stabs Qui-Gon in the dick and gains the high ground over Obi-Wan. but Maul underestimates Obi-Wan's power and gets cut in half. Qui-Gon goes cross-eyed. Episode 1 complete. No new character, I get my super kit piece, and after the mini-kits are put together, I get to watch the ending. It's that parade with Gungans marching through the streets, and Padme gives my cousin Boss Nass one of those plasma ball toys, and also gives a worrying look to a child. Followed by the credits. Every episode gives you the credits again on completion. Thankfully you can skip them. After the credits I'm back in the diner. I head over to Dexter and use the studs I built up to buy some characters. Battle Droid, Security, Battle Droid, Padme, Royal Guard, Droideka, and Darth Maul. Time to start episode 2, which is only 5 chapters long. You can tell a chapter was cut in development when the first chapter is Discovery on Kamino, quite a chunk into the film. There was a cut chapter based on the Zam Wesell chase that would eventually be added into the complete saga. We start with Obi-Wan Starfighter landing on Kamino with R4-P17. A lightning strike destroys an antenna and injures a Kaminoan. I head over to them and use the Force to fix it. This also opens a bridge leading to the door inside. Behind the Starfighter is a broken lift I can fix that lets me grab the first minikit piece. There's also a second minikit piece out here that R4 can hover to. I then follow the Kaminoan inside. Obi-Wan shows a dart that he got from Zam Wesell off screen and she asks him to follow her. I do not, instead I head the opposite direction. I have R4 open this gate to a bucket that I have Obi-Wan spill. I then use the Force on the broom and use it to make a lap around this entire room for a lot of studs. Then I follow the Kamino into the next room. It seems locks on Kamino are an annoying waste of time. I have to run in a square along all these circles to light them all up to open the door. I have to. They make their guests do this shit. Doing this makes another switch rise up and pressing it opens the gates. It also opens the windows, allowing Obi-Wan to discover the clone army. I head through the right hallway, but it requires a protocol droid to continue, so I go left. There's 6 switches to turn here, and doing them all makes my third minikit piece appear. I have R4 open the door and follow my host to the next screen. She enters the first room on the right, but balls of that, I keep going into the first room on the left. In this room there's 2 Kaminoans at a computer and 16 lights on the floor, 2 of them lit. Standing on both turns them green and lights up 2 more. Keep this up until all 16 are lit and everything turns into a disco light with a remix of the main Star Wars theme and some dancing Kaminoans. It also spawns my 4th minikit piece. I then head back and go into the room on the right. In here they run into the Thets. They shove Obi-Wan aside and escape, leaving these floating droids to fight me. R4 renders them total pushovers. My host takes a chance to escape when they're destroyed and I choose to explore Jango's room. After blowing up some explosive canisters, the studs I gain fill the bar. In the corner is this vending machine that spits out the tiles I can use to complete this Jango mosaic. Doing so lets me grab the 5th minikit piece. I finally leave the room to find Jango behind a force field in the back. Reflecting blaster fire into these turrets removes it and Jango flees again. In the next room Jango runs into this little hole, but I got other things to do first. There's these 2 sets of 3 lights on the ground and on the wall. I have to stand on the one that matches the one lit up on the wall. Doing it 3 times gets me the 6th minikit piece. Now I follow Jango. It takes me outside where he set up bombs on the walkways. First I go left and have R4 hover over to this platform filled with studs. I just have to keep moving close to the bombs to set them off, but jump away so they can't kill me. There's this extra walkway above me but I need a blaster character to get up there. The next walkway is too far for R4 to hover, so I have Obi-Wan stand on the button that extends this bridge a little bit, giving her just a space across and fully extend the bridge. R4 opens the door to a lift that takes them back inside. Jango flees the room again and the room starts filling with more drones. These are infinitely spawning, dropping from a pair of hatches in the far right corner. While Obi-Wan is shot at, I have R4 close the hatches, then Obi-Wan finish off the remains. I move the rubble blocking the terminal that controls the exit and keep moving to the final section. Jango makes it to the Slave 1, which Boba is already inside. Instead of just getting in, he stays outside and tries fighting me. Jango can be damaged by either just hitting him or reflecting his blaster fire back at him. While this is going on, Boba is also trying to shoot me from the Slave 1, which I can also reflect into Jango. Once he has 4 health left, he starts hovering away from the arena and shooting missiles at me. I just have to force those missiles back at him. On his last bit of health, he just keeps trying to run from me until I get the final hit in. Obi-Wan goes for the kill before Boba manages to knock him over and Jango escapes the planet. Obi-Wan throws a tracker on the Slave 1 and follows it to Geonosis. At the end of the level I unlock Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jedi Master, and R4-P17. I get my super kit piece and add up my mini kit finds. Chapter 2, Droid Factory. Obi-Wan lands on Geonosis and sends a message to Anakin and Padme. It shows him under attack and good thing they just happen to be passing by that planet. They land outside the droid factory and Padme rings the doorbell to get let in. First thing I do is turn around and run directly towards the camera to find the first mini kit piece already. Heading forward and getting the studs on the way brings me into contact with a new enemy, Geonosians. They hover above the ground and try to shoot me. Despite making sense to switch to Padme, I just keep throwing Anakin at them until they get bored and let me kill them. I end up going through 3 waves, never thinking it might just be easier to shoot them. Once they're done, I go through the room in the back to the next screen. Here we drop into a big conveyor belt. I run against it, avoid being crushed and get stopped by a barrier, also I think. I can actually just walk through it. It had been a few years since I last played this. I pass under some more crushers and meet R2 at the other end. I take him back onto the conveyor and backtrack to this terminal. It turns off the conveyor completely. Continuing, there are these 3 propellers I can build. South from the middle one is this bridge I can turn leading to a grapple point to a door and shoot a target blocking the terminal. I have R2 hover over and open the door. Here I have 3 terminals coloured red, yellow and blue. Next to them is a green light. So I use the yellow and blue terminals to mix those paints and make green. Then it's red and blue for purple and red and yellow for orange. Doing all 3 lets me grab my second minikit. That's all in here, so I backtrack to the propellers and lift myself up to the next screen. In here I grapple up to a target that when shot raises a bucket of molten Lego bricks I can jump across, then grapple up and shoot another target. Anakin and R2 stay in the bucket as it gets moved further on and they're killed off screen, dumped into the pit. This time I get in the bucket myself and jump out to collect my third minikit piece. I keep moving to the right, taking out the droids and leaving R2 and Padme behind until I reach the end where I need them. But in doing this I also gain the 25,000 studs required to fill the bar in this level. I backtrack a bit and drop down to build a target for Padme to shoot. This gets the bucket next to us rising and lowering. I first have R2 open this door to an optional area. I just have to cross some moving platforms for an easy 4th minikit piece. Then I take R2 to the far right side of the previous screen to unlock the door and move on again. Here we meet up with C-3PO. Normal gold plated C-3PO only in this game, no low budget episode 2 plated variant. I have to leave him behind and have Padme grapple over to a platform with the 5th minikit piece, then have Anakin jump onto this platform and rotate it so 3PO can get on. I move it around and jump onto another and move that so 3PO can make it to the other side. I have him use a terminal to open the door to the next screen. This screen has Geonosians coming out of holes in the walls at me. I just keep running right while committing Geonocide until I reach this gate I can break open and enter the hole behind it. This room is a maze of semi-invisible walls, requiring me to take R2 to a few terminals to open more paths through it. Reaching the final terminal lets me grab my 6th minikit piece. Once that's done I leave and keep heading right. I grapple up to a higher level to shoot down wreckage for Anakin to build into a platform for R2 so he can hover across and use a terminal to make a full bridge for everyone else. Take out some droidicas, run to the furthest point right for my 7th minikit piece and have C-3PO use the terminal to open the door to another screen. 2 terminals for R2 in here. One creates a lift to build and the other a bomb to place in front of the force field at the right side of the room. The lift I can only use properly in free use for a minikit, so I detonate the bomb and take out all the droids behind it that are guarding Obi-Wan. With them all destroyed I just have to blow up all parts keeping Obi-Wan trapped to finish the level. They try escaping but get held up by more droidicas and Jango Fett. I unlock Anakin Skywalker, Padawan, Padme again, no naming distinction between Geonosis Padme and Tatooine Padme, and C-3PO. I get my super kit piece and it's starting to resemble something now. Then it's my minikit pieces and at 7 pieces this one just looks like a chair. Chapter 3, Jedi Battle. Obi-Wan, Padme and Anakin are chained up in the Colosseum to be executed as Count Dooku watches with Jango Fett and Poggle the Lesser. Mace Windu shows up and gets backed into the arena by a super battle droid. Despite the cutscene showing him backed up by Sharkati and Luminara, my only other character is R2. First I have to save Padme, which requires killing 5 battle droids and 2 droidicas. But when they're killed, I first decide to do a lap of the arena for studs, since no more enemies are appearing until I free Padme. There's this minikit behind the gate, but I need 2 Jedi to open it. Before I've even finished the lap, I already have the 6,000 studs needed to fill out the bar. Can you imagine a LEGO game today with just 6,000 studs needed to fill the bar? There's this part where I have to make a pole putting the segments in the right order, and it spawns my first minikit, but to reach it I have to remove the top 2 segments and do a double jump and down stab. Continuing right, there's a second minikit behind the pillar. I then loop back around to where I lower Padme and free her. Next is Anakin being guarded by 5 super battle droids and 2 droidicas. Super battle droids are just like the regular battle droids, they just take a couple more hits to kill. Before I free Anakin, I grapple up behind him as Padme for the 3rd and 4th minikit pieces. All that's left is Obi-Wan, who has 2 super battle droids and 5 droidicas guarding him. Now I have Anakin, I return to that gate and force both switches to my 5th minikit. Once the droids around Obi-Wan are destroyed, I grapple up behind him, shoot a target to his platform and grab my 6th minikit piece. Another platform I built earlier as Windu brings me up to the 7th minikit. I free Obi-Wan but the level isn't done just yet. I have to take out a wave of 6 battle droids, followed by 4 battle droids and 2 super battle droids, then 3 of each. After this, Jango flies in and gets involved. He has 10 units of health and it's as easy as just switching to Padme and shooting him. After 5 hits he loses his jetpack and becomes even easier to hit. Once I get the last hit in, we just see his head roll along the ground. Yoda shows up with the clone army and takes out the rest of the droids. Dooku leaves and the main three get on board while Boba picks up his dad's helmet. I unlock Mace Windu and Padme Claude. There's more Padmes than anyone else in this game, but it's still nothing compared to the amount of Luke's next game. I get my super kit piece, and at this point what it is should be obvious, as is the mini kit pieces. Chapter 4, Gunship Cavalry. I'm put in control of said gunship in an isometric view, like Zaxxon or that one level in the Wonderful 101. Within seconds I shoot a canister for my first mini kit piece. I'm merely just dodging lasers and shooting everything I can for studs. Not long after I have my second mini kit piece. There ends up being a fork and I take the lower path. Right after they reconnect I get the third mini kit piece. I shoot up an electrical generator that would have kept me from going forward. Another fork and I take the lower path again, getting shot off into a pit to my death. I make it through next time and for some reason none of my shots register on this mini kit canister, so I miss it. Another fork I take the lower path at and another canister on the other end that won't acknowledge my shots. I destroy more electrical generators to move on to the next section. This time I'm circling these huge ships to destroy their generators, and get myself blown up in seconds. While circling these ships I get my fourth mini kit piece, followed by my fifth as a 45-second timer appears on screen. I then get my 6th, 7th and 8th mini kits and then actually get to work fighting this thing. To deal with them I have to destroy the 2 lasers on either side of these force fields to deactivate them and blow up the generators. Of course by the time I start doing this I have only 20 seconds left, so I don't do it. Next I'm focusing on the generators from the beginning, so it's easy. And that's the level. Dooku escapes on his jet bike and we follow him. No super kit this time, died too many times. And unlike the pod race, I don't even have every mini kit to make up for it. End of episode 2, chapter 5, Count Dooku. Dooku heads into his little cave lair and Anakin and Obi-Wan jump out after him. The gunship gets shot down and since the part where Padme gets knocked out in the film isn't shown, we can presume in this continuity she was caught in the fiery explosion. First thing I do is turn left and jump to my death to grab a mini kit piece. This is the highest level to fill the bar on, there are so few studs and you can barely miss any of them. I follow Dooku inside and you can see how strict it is with the studs when just 800 fills up so much of the bar. Destroying the tanks hiding these studs also gets me the second mini kit piece. I head into the room where Dooku runs away again and has some Geonosians fight me. Take them out and go to the left, stand on a button to make some platforms come out of the wall. Anakin jumps up to another that holds him in place while I climb up to my third mini kit piece. There's another one higher up but I need a high jumper for that. 2 blue studs and look how much they fill the bar. Another button platforming challenge. This time alternating who jumps up to the next platform to press the next button. Reach the top to pull some switches to open the gate forward. And there's another mini kit I can't jump to. I head to the next room and finally catch up to Dooku. I ignore him and desperately look for studs before he kills me and ruins my chance of filling the bar. Luckily there's this machine I can force for some studs which just gives me the 3000 I need to fill that bar. Now he can do what he wants to me. I first damage him 3 times with a down stab. He jumps away and makes himself a little force barrier and starts throwing things because he's losing, so I do the mature thing and throw them back. After 3 hits he knocks Obi-Wan away and cuts off Anakin's hand. But then Yoda shows up and takes Anakin's place. Yoda is funny to watch but a pain in the ass to control. With his lightsaber out he can't walk, just do a lot of flips everywhere. I trap Dooku and downstab him 3 more times. He puts his barrier up again and starts throwing lightning for me to throw back. 3 times again to knock him out of it. Then 4 more downstabs to win, just like in the film. Dooku distracts Yoda by trying to crush Anakin and escapes. Padme, who survived, shows up to collect everyone, episode 2 complete. I unlock Yoda, get my super kit piece. I think this is the point where there should be no way to not know that it's a Tantive 4, even if you don't know that name. That said, I did just Google Tantive 4 right now just to make sure I wasn't getting the name wrong and thinking of something else. You know when you've known something so long, but when you need that information that very second you suddenly doubt yourself. Dooku meets up with Darth Sidious and they have a chuckle to themselves. Credits roll. Back in the diner, I go to the shop and buy Battle Droid Geonosis, Clone, Geonosian and Super Battle Droid. There are more, but they cost tens of thousands and I want to save my studs for something else. Time for the episode 3 door. Chapter 1, Battle over Coruscant. Palpatine kidnapped, Anakin and Obi-Wan to rescue, R4 is already dead. We've gone from Zaxxon to Star Fox to this shooter level. I smash myself into a ship right away. Keep shooting cannons and all that for studs. After heading down I crash into my first mini kit piece. Keep heading down and get my second. Both shooting them and ramming into them works. Next I've got to shoot through all 5 of these big red buttons to blow a ship in half and fly through the gap. Third mini kit piece not long after getting through. Fly into this next ship and get the 4th while I'm there. 5th piece is about 10 seconds later. Start dodging missiles and fly around another ship, with the 6th mini kit piece having a smaller window than the others before I've missed it. After flying across the top of this next ship, there's a mini kit in the corner for ages before I'm in range to get it, and it always gives me such anxiety thinking I'm going to miss it. Fly under another ship and blow up the big red buttons on the next. This opens a door I fly through where I get my 8th mini kit piece. Out the other end and I get shot down. This is a bit of a brutal checkpoint because it doesn't give you much time to destroy all the buttons and then get back in the middle again, so redoing this takes a further 4000 studs from me. I fly past a couple more ships and get my 9th mini kit piece, then it's a lot of flying through open space before I get shot down again. Thankfully, shooting down enemies in this chapter will give me studs too. I make it further than I did last time and get the 10th minikit piece, and right after I reach the 20,000 studs needed to fill the bar. First level I won't have to repeat since I've got everything now. And even watching it back 3 years later, I was certain I wasn't going to get enough studs after those deaths. After that it's shooting the 2 ray shield generators and getting inside the final ship. I get my super kit piece and the 10 minikit pieces build a dropship. Chapter 2, Chancellor in Peril. Anakin and Obi-Wan make their crash landing and get out. As we start we can just see General Grievous in the far back. First, studs. Once that's done I approach Grievous for him to flee and send some droids after me. After killing them all and looting every object for its studs, I blow up the door and keep moving. On this next screen I'm heading towards the camera, fighting more battle droids, then drop down to a lower section where there's now super battle droids too. I build myself some platforms so I can climb higher up. To the left is a machine that dispenses a huge amount of studs. I then return to the middle of this floor, blow open a gate and go through it to another screen. I kill a load of droids while getting teased by the amount of terminals here that I can't use. But once they're all dead, R2 catches up with us. One of them requires a protocol droid, but the rightmost one can be opened now. Followed by the leftmost one that contains the first minikit piece. The right one has me push a cart out into another room and blow it up to make a path forward. But first I backtrack to the previous room, where there's a terminal for R2 at the bottom. It turns out to just be a shortcut to the higher level, time wasted. So I return to the ramp I made and go up it. I can't get the minikit that's right above me yet, so I just start heading right. I build up a vent to lift R2 to a higher level, but then go back and take the left path to get my second minikit piece. I follow R2 up that vent, take out the droidekas while filling the bar, then have R2 open the door to the next screen. But first I spent ages trying and failing to jump around to that minikit. The next screen has us find the Chancellor and Count Dooku shows up. He's had a bit of a downgrade, only 6 hearts down from 10, but he makes up for it with a load of droids helping him out. After taking out all these droids I downstab him twice so he flees up the stairs. Follow him up and downstab twice more to make him jump back down, then hit him twice more. No conflict this time, Anakin takes Dooku's hand and then his head with zero hesitation. They free Palpatine and get going. I can control Palpatine too, but it can only walk and jump, no attacks. I go up the stairs and through the newly opened door. In this room the third minikit piece can be found in the door on the right. After collecting the studs I head into the lift in the back. Said lift somehow leads to me running from a fiery explosion. Just follow the trail of studs to avoid being blown up. Once I reach the end and a barrier emerges to block the flames, I have R2 take the barrier down and the flames actually flee from me. You can go all the way back to the beginning but there's nothing there, so I head back and jump through the sideways door. Next room has me turning switches to turn off steam. R2 is unaffected by steam so I have to take him through the steam and turn it off on the other side. I blow up a boiler and get the 4th minikit piece behind it. Then at the end is a door for R2 to open. In this room is General Grievous and his bodyguards. Grievous takes off in an escape pod and leaves me to deal with them. Of course the solution is the almighty downstab. After a few hits they lose their heads and then after some more, their lives. I head forward into the bridge where a huge group of battle droids try to stop me, but downstab wins the day. All that's left is using the force to pull up a pair of levers. The ship begins to crash into Coruscant but they manage to land relatively safely. Finishing this chapter unlocks Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 3, Anakin Skywalker, Jedi, and Chancellor Palpatine. My full bar puts a big zit on my ship's nose and my 4 minikits are put together. Chapter 3, General Grievous. Obi-Wan lands on Utapau and meets up with Commander Cody. They spot Grievous slowly sneaking in broad daylight and jump him. Grievous gets a cheap shot in before I realise I'm in control. One jump slash and he jumps across a pit onto a cliff edge. There's a pair of detonators next to him so I have Cody blow them both up to have one more blow up on his head to damage him again. He comes back to the arena where I downstab him twice more. He flees to a higher level. I use the wreckage from the detonators to build a bridge. I also jump over to my first minikit piece. I cross the bridge and build some platforms up to 2 more minikits. I think the downstab extending my collision upwards isn't intentional. I get the idea I was supposed to use a high jumper for that second one. I get close to Grievous but he's too high up, so I build a platform, stand on it as Cody and jump and shoot the detonators to damage Grievous again. Once more he returns to the main arena, but first I build some steps up to where he just was. I force the detonator over to another cliff and blow it up. I drop down and get my 4th minikit piece in the hole in the wall. I go right and follow the path down for the 5th minikit. I return to Grievous and slash him twice more, making him retreat to that cliff I moved the detonator to. But since I already destroyed it, he automatically takes damage and jumps back to me. 2 more jump slashes and he's done. Grievous breaks cannon by killing Cody and Obi-Wan shoots his head off. I unlock Commander Cody for beating this chapter. No super kit this time, most of the studs are out of my reach. The minikits get put together and that's it. Chapter 4, Defense of Kashyyyk. Yoda flies up to Chewie's treehouse as romantic music plays. Not much seems to be going on right now but I have to do some defending. When Yoda's lightsaber is away it can jump into his flying thing from that one scene in Attack of the Clones. This is the most fun Yoda is in this game. Once I've collected the studs, I use the force to lower a bridge to the next tree. I take a right and destroy something that looks kind of important for just a few studs. Then having Yoda move the central part gets me my first minikit piece. I cross over to a tree filled with clones just in time to watch the Order 66. Order. So they all get the guns out and start shooting. It goes about as well for them as you'd expect. I rebuild the mechanism that lowers this bridge and move to the next tree. Clones are holding 3 Wookiees hostage. One thing you notice at this point is that like the Revenge of the Sith game I did in episode B5, this game was also completed before the film Score was, so episode 3 gets random tracks from other films. This one has that one in Empire where the Falcon is escaping the Empire after Hoth. I head right to a fork and right again, build a grapple point for Chewie and free the first Wookiee. Before freeing the next one in plain sight, I return to the last tree for collecting. I pick up all the studs and send Chewie up a series of grapple points where I can free a second Wookiee. I return to the fork and take a left so I can have Chewie grapple up to my second mini-kit, then it's the middle path to free the last Wookiee. I follow the bridge to some buttons that Yoda and all the Wookiees stand on to lower another bridge. This leads me to the next screen. I'm on a beach now where the Trade Federation droids are still fighting clones. Of course both of them will ignore each other and gun for me if I'm close. There's even a clone in the walker that takes quite a few hits to deal with. The Jedi may be suffering a mass extermination, but I always have time to pull up some weeds. Problem is, enemies seem to be infinitely spawning and you can get swamped very quickly. Yoda's long ass attack animations don't help things. I just want to pull up some weeds but I can't because some dickhead keeps shooting me in the middle of it. When I think I'm safe, more spawn in. After a million years I can finally pull up that weed and move on. I also pull up a large carrot by the start of this screen. Fuck these walkers though, they just make this one screen drag out for an eternity. Also one of the Wookiees followed me and is playable. Despite the second Wookiee hanging around with Yoda being named out loud as Tarful in the film, this one is just a generic no-named Wookiee. I keep on heading left trying to get all the studs I can. I managed to get quite a collecting spree going before another walker interrupts me. This is right behind Retake Feed Palace's least favourite level. Writing this now, I'm aiming to get this episode out on the week starting the 21st of June 2021, making this specific video aimed for June 22nd. If this did not go up then, it's because of those 2 levels being a huge slog to watch through and scrape. I can't skip anything because what if I miss a collectible? The Sonic Chaos video has been done for 5 days now as I'm writing this part, and I doubt the Dukes of Hazzard video coming up next will take long at all. On the far left side I pull up a second giant carrot. I use a grapple point to shoot down a gate to the next screen. I try looking for things to do but eventually get fed up with the walkers and go through the gate. I'll get whatever I missed next time. The next screen still has droids but at least there's no walkers. But they are infinitely spawning though, you can see them dropping from the sky. There's 2 arseholes on either side calling more in. The one on the right is too high for my shots to hit, but the one on the left side I can take out and at least half their spawn rate. I have to take Yoda up to the other one. With all the droids gone I can finally look for collectibles in peace. Pulling out all the weeds by the entrance also pulls up some parts of the raft. Once it's built, a trail of studs will appear in the swamp and the raft will float along it. Or I can just ride Yoda's pod along it. I can raise an X-Wing from the swamp, but I still can't jump high enough off it to reach the mini-kit above it. I go through the back onto the next screen. More clones show up to fight me, but these are much easier to deal with. I keep following the path, taking out clones and getting studs. At the end of the path is another walker, but it's only one so it isn't that bad. I start running up this mountainside dodging boulders. On the way I can grapple up to my third mini-kit. At the top I build a ramp to a pair of buttons that open this gate. Behind it is more clones, droids and another walker. Keep going up this hill after them and I reach the 45,300 studs needed to fill the bar. I turn on these 4 lights around this hole and destroy them to raise Yoda's escape pod. Double jumping off the top lets me get the 4th mini-kit before I open the pod and get in. Thank fuck that's over. Yoda waves Chewie goodbye and leaves. I unlock Chewbacca and the Wookiee. I make the super kit no longer look like it has a zit, and that just doesn't look like it's 4 pieces. Chapter 5, Ruin of the Jedi. Obi-Wan and Yoda return to the Jedi Temple. They think they've seen some survivors, but they turn out to be clones wearing Jedi robes. Before I set off for clones, I go underneath the building for studs and the first mini-kit piece. At this point the clones come after me. This is based on a scene that was deleted from the film. The developers probably had no idea it wasn't going to make it into the final product. At least with Obi-Wan, I have a Jedi who isn't a total ball ache to play as. After collecting all the studs here, I pull the doors to the temple clean off, smash them up for studs and head inside. I cross the bridge in here and build some stairs with the Force. I go left and lift this globe only for the Jedi training ball things to start attacking me. Putting it back gets me even more studs. I head up the stairs, keep moving right and drop down. I start helping Yoda put these 2 halves of the globe back together before I'm interrupted by more clones. After killing them I open this door on the right and then get putting that globe together. It ends up doing nothing. I head south from there and lose 4,000 studs trying to get this second mini-kit over a pit. I return to the door I opened earlier and go in. This takes me into the Jedi Archives. I take out all the clones waiting for me and leave. I go south from the globe again and through a door into the Jedi Council room. I stack all the chairs and get the third mini-kit piece at the top. I then return to the archive. I head straight forward to the open section in the back and take the first right. I fill the bar with studs from pulling platforms out of the wall. Climbing these platforms takes me to a switch I pull and a mini-kit I can't reach. Next right has even more platforms to pull out to reach a button that activates another switch that I then pull. Final right has more platforms to a third switch. This opens a door in the middle. I can also get the mini-kit this time. This is the 4th. The 3 sections to the left have force fields keeping me from entering. I go through the door to another screen with even more clones waiting for me. After killing them, I mess with the security recording to finish the chapter. They get to see Anakin decapitating Shaak Ti. Obi-Wan is mildly concerned by this, and the fact he's working for Darth Sidious. No new characters, I just get my super kit piece and watch my minikits get put together. Final chapter, Darth Vader. Obi-Wan shows up on Mustafar to see Anakin yelling at a pregnant Padme and making her cry. When Anakin sees Obi-Wan, there's no talk, he just runs in and tries to kill him. He runs inside and Obi-Wan gives chase. They both find themselves in a collapsing corridor right above lava, so despite them trying to kill each other, the game's requirement for 2 characters has them working together to escape frying. An interesting thing about this corridor is that a death and respawn also respawns the studs, so you could fill the bar and farm endless studs by just running down here and dying repeatedly. I don't do that, but I do get the first minikit piece on the left just before the exit, and now 30 seconds to sort out this room. You can add 20 seconds to your timer though with each of these pillars you rebuild. It gives me plenty of time to run around collecting studs, along with this second minikit piece just chilling in the back. Collecting the studs around it also fills the bar already. In the far left corner I can break open this grate for the 3rd minikit, and next to it I can smash open a door for the 4th minikit piece. The exit is in the middle right, you just have to move some rubble away from it. Once they're outside, Anakin remembers they're supposed to be fighting and pushes Obi-Wan over, then runs away like a 9-year-old schoolboy. Obi-Wan catches up and their fight makes him take a fall to the next area. The 5th minikit piece is right next to where I start. Pressing these 2 buttons lowers a platform to continue and gets me the 6th minikit. Gotta keep heading right while pulling switches and fixing machinery while the path right behind me is collapsing. Obi-Wan and Anakin resume their fight again and they fall into this bit of machinery sinking into the lava. I jump across each part of these sinking rocks where on the right I get the 7th minikit. Anakin blocks my jump on the way back and I fall into lava. Next time I take the rocks to the left and get the 8th minikit. I keep crossing the rocks on this sinking platform to the final part where the fight truly begins. You can actually swap characters in this fight and do it as Anakin. Each character has a full 10 hearts to accommodate this. This is actually one of the easiest boss fights in the game. No phases, just keep hitting. The fight does reset when you die though. Anakin knocks Obi-Wan down and prepares to end it, only for Obi-Wan to get a second wind and dice Anakin up. He walks off to let him burn. Episode 3 complete. Get a super kit, watch minikits come together. Padme gives birth and goes cross-eyed like Qui-Gon. Meanwhile Darth Sidious recovers Anakin and rebuilds him. Vader gets up and just starts breaking things. Credits roll. Of course I am far from done. I need to replay all but 1 level for missing collectibles. Back in the diner I buy Clone, Episode 3 Swamp, Clone, Episode 3 Pilot, Clone, Episode 3, and Boba Fett, once again saving for something else. Time for a bit of free play, where I can take a group of many characters of different types into previously beaten levels to find new things that were impossible in story. You choose one and the game auto picks another 11 to make sure I have a team that can do everything. Starting with Episode 1, Chapter 1. Left, right after leaving the starting room, is a door I could have opened with TC-14 first time but forgot. There's a minikit behind the force field, I just have to stand on 2 buttons to get rid of it and get this chapter's 4th minikit piece. Back in the later protocol required room where I find a minikit but couldn't get to it, I send Boba Fett through a vent to press a button to remove the force field, then jump off his stack of boxes to the 5th minikit. A little further up the hallway is a door I have R4 open. In this room I rebuild a ship that then flies off. I also notice that battle droids don't tend to attack me when I am one myself. I pull a vent from the wall onto the floor and jump off it as Jar Jar into my 6th minikit piece. Skipping ahead to that vent leading to the final screen, it ends up making a table that I double jump off of to get the 7th minikit piece above it. At the start of the final screen I have R4 hover to the left and open this door. Inside is a button that lifts up a little platform. From it I can jump into this cage and press another button to lower it. Do that again with the other cage and stand on both cages buttons at once to give me access to the 8th minikit. That's all I get in this run. Now that ship's beginning to look like something. Instead of going through the rest of them, I skip ahead to the pod race. Since I have all the minikits, it's just studs I'm after. I don't get it first time, but on my second try I play pretty much perfectly and fill the bar on my second lap. Just 2 pieces of super kit left, so I just aim for them right now. Episode 2 Chapter 4 next. While replay I get the 9th minikit piece, followed by the 10th. I then fill the bar in the second section. Just 1 super kit piece left and the minikits build an AT-TE. The only place I'm missing the super kit piece now is the General Grievous chapter. From the arena to the left of the first cliff Grievous escapes to, I can hover as R4 to another cliff with the 6th minikit piece. Then I can hover just a little further to reach the 7th. With Jar Jar I can jump onto Grievous's final hiding place and grab the 8th minikit, then continue right for the 9th minikit. I can then cross this bridge to go inside this building. Got to be careful in here as there's a lot of instant killing bombs. Around the central pillar are a few switches to pull. While circling this room I fill the bar. Pulling all the switches reveals the 10th and final minikit for this chapter. That's my 4th fully completed chapter and the first one that isn't a vehicle chapter. The Tantive 4 is complete and I'm told Episode 4 is also unlocked. The minikit is an Episode 3 Jedi Starfighter. Episode 4 is in the question mark door. It's just one short level to act as a teaser for a sequel covering the original trilogy. We get to see the opening scene with the Tantive 4 being under attack. For this bonus level I'm in control of Darth Vader and a Stormtrooper. No super kit piece or minikits in here, just studs to collect for money. I go through the first door and I just get to rampage through the Tantive 4, smashing shit up and killing rebel soldiers. Through the next door I need a protocol droid to get through the door going forward, so I go left instead. This is another good place for stud farming because you get quite a lot from just breaking things here. In the next room, C-3PO is trapped in a tank for some reason. Surrounding him are 9 switches with barriers on them. After trying to jump on top of the barriers, sometimes forcing some of them to activate, I realise I'm being an idiot and smash them all up. I press all the switches and commandeer 3PO. I go back and make him open the door forward, but first I go to the right for another door. In here is a load of blocks of 4 different colours. I have to figure out the right order to stack all these boxes. It's easy, each colour makes a different letter spelling the word LEGO. The only tricky part is that Vader likes to change his target at the last second quite often and ends up trying to pull apart letters I've already finished. Doing this makes a load of blue studs explode from the ceiling. It's hard to get them all though thanks to the letters themselves taking up space. I go back through the door I opened and make 3PO open another. I go left down another corridor into this room with a huge glass thing in the middle. I build up this rotary thing inside and make it spin until it makes some propellers in the corner spin, getting me some more blue studs. After this I go back and take the right path. At the end of the corridor I make C-3PO unlock another door. Behind this door is R2 and Princess Leia. Leia runs away and R2 comes towards me and it ends on a to be continued. I unlock Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader and the Stormtrooper. That's a nice little reward. You get to know there will be a second game, you get Darth Vader, and you get a nice stud farming location. This one level gives me credits once again. The rest of the game is just collecting now. In the diner I buy the newly available 1000 stud Rebel Trooper. I thought I was aiming for the minikit detector and I can afford it now, but I don't buy it. Instead I do another run for episode 4. Now I buy the minikit detector and the extras that I could already afford before replaying that level. I then buy Clone, Episode 3, Walker, Luminara, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Kit Fisto, Shark T and Jango Fett. No Plo Koon in this game, which always surprised me. I thought even in 2005 he was one of the more popular ones for being playable in the likes of Jedi Power Battles. Extras can be toggled on and off in the pause menu. Now it's time to properly start the free player runs, back in Episode 1, Chapter 1. The detector works by having a flashing arrow over where a minikit is or will be spawned, so it lets you know where you should be looking, but if it's a puzzle, it doesn't outright give you the solution. This is an obvious one I missed. In the room with the ship I repair, I took out a vent. I have to jump in as Jar Jar to get on the other side of his force field, hover across the pit as R2 and use the terminal. The 9th minikit is above the ship. The last one I'm surprised I've missed twice. I just have to press all these switches here quickly to make the final minikit piece appear. They build a Republic cruiser. On to Chapter 2. Right at the beginning I can turn right and shoot this target for the 8th minikit. This next one is another easy one. In the vehicle I have to blow up early on, I can destroy the bottom for the 9th minikit piece. In the second screen I send Boba through a vent to the final minikit piece. These make a Gungan Bongo. Chapter 3. At the beginning I can use these 3 pillars to make boxes. I can stack them up and use Jar Jar to reach the 5th minikit piece. This does show the issue with the minikit detector in this game. This minikit is off screen most of the time, and the arrow pointing to it was above it, also off screen. The next game will make a big improvement to the detector. Right next to the exit of this screen is another minikit that even Jar Jar isn't reaching. I had to jump as Jar Jar and then morph into a droideka whose extra height grabs it for me. That's 6. On the second screen I drop down to the left here and hover over to the other side as R2. I then grapple up twice from here to find the 7th minikit piece. On the right side of this screen with all the grapple points is a vent, so I send Anakin through and find the 8th minikit. On the screen with all the domes I can see the detector pointing me to the one furthest on the left. While pressing the middle button only shows the dome at the other end opening, the one with my 9th minikit also opens. The last one can be found by stacking stuff on top of the button and high jumping. These minikits make the Royal Starship. Chapter 4 is done already, so 5 is next. By getting up to this balcony in the first screen and shooting through this window, I can get the 5th minikit. On the second screen was this doorway I couldn't reach before that required a high jumper. Forcing this gate in the back open gets me the 6th minikit. In the third screen after crossing the bridge, I can have Jar Jar jump up here and use the force to make a platform that gets me even higher. Up there is a 7th minikit piece. In the 5th screen with all the tables, I can have Jar Jar jump up behind these pillars, grapple up to the highest point and get the 8th minikit piece in the far left corner. On the final screen to the left from the entrance, I have Jar Jar jump up along the platforms and over to the 9th minikit. I can then have Jar Jar jump from where the droid is holding up 2 guards up along the top of the room, which leads to the final minikit piece. And now I never have to look at this level again. Until the complete saga. This time they build a Naboo starfighter. On to Chapter 6. On the first screen, after making Maul flee, I jump on top of the left starfighter as Jar Jar and get the 3rd minikit. Above the exit is a terminal for R4 to use that opens a door to an entirely new area. After taking out the thousands of droids in here, I run across these red lights on the floor to make the 4th minikit appear. On the second screen with all these platforms, I can finally grapple up to the top. There's a huge amount of studs up here and a lift I can raise with the force. Using Jar Jar to get on top gets me the 5th minikit. On the third screen I use the terminals either side of the entrance with R4 to make the platforms move, getting me the 6th and 7th minikit pieces. Then the last 3 are simple. There's one each in the final area on each of Darth Maul's camping spots. Having Jar Jar here allows me to get the 8th, 9th and 10th minikit pieces. These ones build a Sith Infiltrator. And that's episode 1 fully completed. Back in the diner I buy Count Dooku, Grievous's bodyguard, Disguised Clone and Mace Windu episode 3. Time to clean up episode 2, starting with chapter 1. On the third screen after I open the doors and windows, I go right and use C-3PO to open this door. The room it leads to has a platforming puzzle. I jump onto the platform and stand on the switch to raise another. The other character jumps on that one to raise another. Halfway through I shoot a target to create a bridge to a row of 5 vents, all leading to a different tank. I want the rightmost one that takes me to this chapter's 7th minikit. I continue with the platforms and switches, which ends with lowering a platform containing the 8th minikit, requiring me to force up an extra platform. On the screen that has me back outside, I can grapple up to this bridge near the end and have 3PO use a terminal to activate a lift. As it goes up, I shoot the targets, allowing me to grab the 9th minikit piece. Finally, in the screen after that when I'm back inside, there's this black door that can only be opened by Sith. 2 Sith have to turn these dials to move the barrier on this minikit, also setting off a load of drones on me. I just grab the final minikit and ignore them. These minikits build a Jedi Starfighter. To chapter 2. Right at the beginning of the second screen, I can have Jar Jar jump to the left for the 8th minikit. In the cave-like screen towards the end, the gate I destroyed to reach the force field maze can be rebuilt into a platform that Jar Jar can use to reach the 9th minikit. And the final one, I already pointed out on my first time through. Now I can have Jar Jar here, I can get it. This set builds a droideka. On to chapter 3. Episode 2 is the quickest to replay because 3 out of 5 levels are quite short, and one of those is already done. Jar Jar gets the 8th minikit on a platform just behind the pillar Padme is tied to. The 9th is just above that. The last one had me sending Boba through a vent that takes him right into it. I'd also like to point out that Jango Fett is no match for a super battle droid. He can't do anything. These minikits build a Republic gunship. Chapter 4 is done, so it's chapter 5 next. At the beginning there's a grapple point that takes me to the 4th minikit for this chapter. When inside, when activating the platforms on the right, I can use a high jumper, Grievous's bodyguard this time, to reach the 5th minikit. The series of platforms on the left also gets me the 6th minikit with the use of a high jumper. On the second screen where I fight Dooku, I take this Geonosian over to a pair of targets and shoot them to get access to the 7th minikit. I never noticed before how quick the Geonosian moves when flying. I mean, there are 56 characters in this game. How many people's minds immediately go to, I want to play as generic bug guy? Things get confusing when I have 3 Dookus on screen at once. I build up a stack of boxes and use the bodyguard to jump up to the 8th minikit. To the right I hover across to the 9th minikit as R2. In the middle back I go through a vent and then grapple up to the last minikit. That's episode 2 complete as well. This set builds Dooku's Solar Sailor. Back in the diner I go into extras and buy brushes. They replace lightsabers when turned on. I then buy Princess Leia and Darth Sidious. I'm only missing Grievous now. Chapter 1 of episode 3 is already complete, so I start with chapter 2. At the beginning of the second screen I can high jump into the 5th minikit. When I reach that line of doors and terminals, there's one I can open with the protocol droid for the 6th minikit. In the same screen there's this one that drove me mad the first time through. Another high jump gets me to it and that's 7. One of my favourite parts about playing as Darth Sidious is that his normal jump attack is that corkscrew thing he did against Windu and his group. In the final room of this chapter I get the 8th minikit just off to the left and the 9th just off to the right. So I've missed one and have to replay the entire level again. But first I leave the diner and go outside for a break so I don't burn out. Out here is where you can see all your minikits, both complete and in progress ones. While out here, good and evil characters will sometimes break out into gang wars, which is always fun. The game also doesn't care if multiple of the same character are on screen together, so you could have 2 different Padmes pass by each other. And through all this there's the little gonk droid trying his hardest to get involved. Before I go back into the level I buy General Grievous, the final and most expensive character in the game. He's the best because 4 lightsabers become 4 brooms. You'll never guess where that last minikit is. It's right at the beginning, I just have to grapple up to it. My biggest complaint with this game, and quite a few LEGO games, is that you can't just get the one collectible you're after and quit. Despite this minikit being at the start of the level, I have to replay the entire thing to keep it. This minikit builds an emergency ship. Chapter 3 is also done already, so it's the hellhole that is Kashyyyk once again. But first from the diner I buy another extra, Big Blasters. Guess what it does. On Kashyyyk, when I reach the big tree where Wookiees are being held captive, I can grapple up here and high jump to the 5th minikit. I guess Grievous gets to high jump since he's the only lightsaber wielder without the Force. Not that I'm complaining, but I'd have thought having 4 lightsabers made up for that. On the beach I can high jump up a couple platforms and have R4 hover to the right for the 6th minikit. At the far end of the beach I could have built a bridge to grapple up to and cross for the 7th minikit. In the swamp Grievous can high jump off the X-Wing for the minikit I couldn't get earlier, that's 8. In the final screen I take the first grapple point up and hover as R4 to the 9th minikit piece. Want to see more of Yoda being a pain? Here's him failing to stand on a button. I get to the end and find I'm still missing one more minikit. It's back on the beach because I can never be free. It spawned by pulling all the carrots from the ground. Of course, with the sheer volume of enemies that are spawning, this takes forever. I'm stuck fighting here for nearly 10 minutes because I just can't get the free time to pull up one fucking carrot. It spawns the final minikit piece upon this rock. I honestly can't decide whether I dislike Feed or Kashyyyk more. This beach is definitely the single worst screen in the game, but Feed just feels so much longer. The minikits here build a Wookiee cat. Chapter 5. The 5th minikit can be found by building some stairs here and having Jar Jar jump up into it. On the right side of this screen I can grapple and make my way above the temple's doors to break through this window for the 6th minikit. The 7th is this one in the archive I couldn't get because I needed a high jumper. After opening the door to the last screen, I can jump on it as Jar Jar and then onto the centre. I can then follow the path to drop behind this force field for the 8th minikit. In this section there's also a switch I can pull. With the force fields on the left side of this room deactivated, I can go to the next segment on the left. I pull the switches in the other two areas to lower some more platforms in the middle. These platforms lead to the 9th minikit. Turns out the 10th minikit is in this little room I can find on the second screen. What I thought was a shadow was actually a door. The minikit is just out in the open here. These build an arc fighter. Just chapter 6 left. In the diner I buy the mustaches extra. It gives everyone a mustache. Just 2 minikits left. In the collapsing room early on, there's a terminal for an astromech that opens a door to the 9th minikit. The final minikit in the game is in the final part. In the far right corner I need to have R4 hover over to this one lone rock with the minikit on it. It builds a V-wing and that is every minikit in the game collected. But I'm still not quite done yet, I have to buy all the extras from the diner. At this point it seems I stopped recording for my farming to save space on my computer. I thought all that footage wouldn't be necessary back then when the plan was to just do reviews. Moments like this are why I class all the 2018 recordings as bonus episodes. It seems off screen I bought the teacups extra which you can clearly see here. I also bought the purple extra that makes all lightsabers purple. My main stud farming method is to run down the first corridor in episode 3 chapter 6 and die at the end to respawn all the studs. About 5 minutes alone of doing this gets me 60,000 studs. I end up just seeing about 20 minutes of Ki-Adi-Mundi endlessly running from Shaak Ti before he falls in lava. I finish the level with just over 220,000 studs and buy silly blasters and classic blasters. Then in my next run the video just cuts off. I don't remember if I had a problem or if I just chose not to record the rest of the grind. But off screen I bought Silhouette which darkens out every character. After quite a bit of farming I have the 1 million studs needed to buy the final extra, Invincibility. And that's LEGO Star Wars the video game fully complete. It's still a pretty fun game, but coming back to it I do see quite a few issues that are ironed out by even the next game. It also doesn't help that the complete saga exists and retroactively adds those improvements to this game. I could have just done that, but I felt doing both games separate before the complete saga was the best choice. What's strange coming back is that the humour is a lot more downplayed than I remember. It's there for the first few levels and then just sort of dies off and scenes end up being more Star Wars played straight but they're just silent and LEGO. But this is the first of a LEGO adaptation series and not everything's bound to be right the first time. While most LEGO games I've played since this one I have found better, this is still a pretty good first try. A few levels and collectibles aside, I did enjoy myself quite a bit. I like getting to see characters that wouldn't get focus in straight film adaptation games like TC-14 get some kind of spotlight. The LEGO look is genuinely endearing despite faces being a bit off sometimes. Plus the main thing that appeals to me, this game is built for completionists like me. Of course I'm going to like it even if it would have just been slightly decent. I don't know if I'm going to play all the LEGO adaptations in order. Of course from an individual franchise I will, but it will be interesting to see how this series evolves playing them in order. We'll see.